Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel. If today is your first visit with us, we want to extend to you a very warm welcome and invite you to view any of our over 500 videos arranged for your convenience in playlists, as we are confident you're going to find something both entertaining and useful. If you have been here before but you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do subscribe. As you know, we publish 2 episodes per week every week. If today is your birthday, we want to wish you a very happy birthday. As you can see, while we really enjoy our new shop, there is a lot of a step, or how to say that, yeah. It is not comfortable, and also it is not comfortable bringing things on top here. So it is time for us to build a set of stairs. And this is exactly what we're going to show you how to do today. We're going to start with common mistakes and misconceptions and why you shouldn't buy the ready-made stringers that you can find in the box stores. So after we go into that, we're going to go into your construction. So stick around and we are going to tell you in detail what you need to know. So a lot of times when you're searching for how to build stringers, you're going to hear some very bad advice. And that goes something like, decide how many steps you want. No, that is not how it works. There are code requirements about steps, and they are based on the fact that a certain length, a certain distance for a step is comfortable, and beyond that you're more likely to trip over. So you do not decide how many steps you want, you see the space you have, and then you decide how many steps you can actually. So you start by taking a measuring tape and measuring the height from the ground to where your threshold is. In our case it's a little more complicated because our doors actually come a little lower than the threshold. Let me show you. So in our case we are interested in the height below the door. We need to be below the door edge. I cannot see it.
So, well, your marker is bent just a little bit.
It is not critical. This is not a late.
It is 14 inches below the door.
Okay. And in our case, this works pretty well because the code requirements and the comfortable stair research has shown us that we need a 7, approximately, plus or minus half, a 7-inch rise for the steps. And we need a 10-inch run, or where you step on is the run, right? Mm-hmm. So for our stairs it ends up being like 2 steps, and probably it is really we're going to build 1 step and then you're going to step on here. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. But you could put 2 and put it right up against there.
No, we can't, because we can't.
No, I mean up against the board there.
No, because then you will have a very small, that would be a tripping hazard. If you have a step here, you specifically will trip.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Miss Wizared has a propensity for tripping. No?
I can share things about what Mr. Wizared has a propensity for.
Feel free, Mr. Wizared edits this thing. So go for it. In any case, you most certainly could, and ideally, especially if you're building an indoor staircase, you want to have 7 inches below your edge, so this will be your last step. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense or not. We are building outside, so we purchased pressure treated boards. Mm-hmm. And pressure treated because it is outside, and you need at least a 12-inch width on the board, because you need a lot of meat. I mean, you're going to take a lot of the wood out.
This is for the stringers, not for
right.
The steps.
Correct.
Themselves.
So this is for the stringers. And I got 10, sorry. So this is really 9.5. And we want, of course, 2 inches, which, as you know, is not 2 inches.
1 3/4.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, this is sufficient for us. And if you're building inside stairs, you're going to use the same process we're going to show you. The only difference is you're not going to use pressure treated lumber, right? But the process is exactly the same. And you're going to need a carpenter square for this process, a circular saw, and a handsaw of some sort or a jigsaw. Those are the only tools you're going to need. A carpet square, a circular saw, and a handsaw. And we're going to show you how we're going to use those tools to make a square, to make stairs. So one of the things I said when we started the video is I will tell you why you shouldn't buy the pre-made stringers. So here it goes. There are several reasons why you shouldn't buy them. The first is really they are not accurate. They only work if your rise is exactly 7 inches, because they are cut 7 inches by 10. Right? Makes sense? Mm-hmm. So they will not apply in every circumstance. Even though ideally it is 7 by 10, in many cases you have to adjust it. Like in our case, we have to have them to 7.5, right? The rise. So in your case, it might be 6.5. Again, 7 is the code, plus or minus 0.5. So you will have to do some work, and sometimes it's harder to adjust this pre-made stringer than make one on your own. That's reason number one. Reason number two, they are very expensive. Like for the 2 steps that we are building in our shop, what was it, $13? $14, you know.
For each one.
For each one. So you want 2, that would be 30. This is more than the wood you're going to buy. And if you're making a big length stair, you know, if you make 10 or 15.
Oh, and that's just for the 2 steps. If you wanted more steps.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And also, they only sell them for outdoors. In other words, they only sell them in pressure treated wood, which will mean you cannot use it inside. It's just ugly wood. It is not stained correctly. It would just not applicable. So unless you're in the perfect situation, you want the fast thing, money is not an object for you. I would not necessarily recommend to buy the pre-made ones. All right. We know that our ladder will be 2 steps, which means that our runs are 10 inches each. So we'll go 20 inches out of our shop. So what we're going to do now is making sure that there is not a huge deviation of height between where our shop starts and where this ladder is going to end. Now we're having this level, and we're going to mark 20 inches.
On this side.
Right, and now we're going to place the level on the edge of the, I will need you to do it, so, or you can measure if you want. We're going to put our level at the edge, and I will tell you when it is level. It is level there. Can you turn the tape the other way so we can record it? Hold on. It's about the same. It's about 15, right?
The bottom, yeah.
Yeah, the bottom is what we're looking at.
Why? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And why we're doing that again? Because the stairs will come all the way here. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So we took the initial measurement at the edge here, but the stairs does not go straight down. So by going 20 out, and again the 20 is not arbitrary, it's because we only have 2 steps, then we know that, okay, it is a couple of inches different, but that's not critical. We know that we're going to be good there. Okay. So at this point we're going to use the first tool. Remember I told you we're going to only use 2 tools in essence, a carpet and square and a circular saw. So here's our carpet and square, and this is a small one. You can use a bigger one. That's what we have. It was big enough for what we needed, so we didn't buy another one. But what we did buy, which is very interesting, is those little knobby things, which I call them knobby things because it took me forever to find out what they're called. And they're actually called gauges, you know? And I would have never thought of that. So when you try to find them, I try everything. I try clamps, I try marks, do you even remember what terms I was looking for? Clips, but they're called gauges. So they're called stair gauges, and they go on your square. And all that does is it helps you keep the same distance on something like this, because it's very rough carpentry. We're not looking at a 1/8 accuracy, right? The consistency is more important than the accuracy. Like if you make a mistake here, as long as you're consistent, your stairs will come out right. I mean, I'm not talking about 10 inches wrong, but if you're an 1/8 or half an inch wrong, it's not really a big deal. So you're going to put your carpet and square like so. Imagine it is a check mark, right? With the point pointing towards you. And remember we have, because this has 2 scales, we are measuring on the outside scale, right? If you put it here, then you're going to have to do it from the other side. Does that make sense, or I confuse people?
Yes.
So what you're going to do here is you're going to take your pencil, and in this instance you want a carpenter's pencil because you will probably break
A finer point.
a finer point.
And what we've done here is line the gauges up so that
Right.
this is pressed against the board, and it's going to create that nice.
And in our case, it was not critical that we were using this because we only have 2. But imagine making like 10 or 15 staircases. This is a time saver, right? Then you want to butt it exactly where the other one ended. And preferably you want to make a straight line so you can see it with your saw, right? So now you can see our stairs, and to orient you, this is going to be our shed when we cut it, right?
Okay.
This is going to go top on the shed, and this is our first step. Well, actually this is the step, right? These are the steps. So let's go ahead and cut it, and we're going to test it. We're not going to cut.
The shorter edge is called the rise, and the longer edge is where your step is going to go. Your
Right.
stair. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not doing it very good job. I guess I'll need
Do it straight.
What I cannot do is I cannot press that and that at the same time. My hand doesn't have the strength. Can you hold it? Why you
Went
wanted
too
me to
far.
stop?
Because you went too
Oh.
far.
I did. I was looking for it.
Do we need to move it out?
Yes, I already did. Well, even the most simple of projects finds a way to become more complicated, and this is another point why the store-bought stringers are not a good idea. Even though everything we told you is accurate and correct, it simply didn't work for our application because we found out that the door actually closes a little lower than our threshold, which created a big problem in the traditional way of making the stringers, correct? So we had to make some modifications. They're not standard. They're only for our application, so I'm not going to go in detail, but as you can see, we've made some modifications to make it work. So now we're going to put the step and the riser on, and we hope we have enough wood for the step and the riser, but we're going to do that, and then we're going to show you the final product. Any questions?
No.
The step to the front of the stringers. Okay, are we ready?
I think so.
Wait.
Okay.
And this treated wood that we purchased is very, very wet still.
Just a moment.
So it has definitely created challenges when cutting. And also as it dries, it may twist your project.
that level, yeah.
I don't think it's perfectly aligned.
So we're using screws for the stairs. No, good, I just split. This is probably the hardest wood we ever worked with
Yeah.
on any project ever. So what I was saying is we're using screws here. Oh, you stopped?
Yep, nope, we're still going.
Because we don't need strength, they just hold it in place. We're going to use nails here because they have a much better shear strength than screws do. And you can hear the clutch. I've set the screws to be just on the surface. Is that visible?
Yes.
That's why you hear the clutch. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay. And then because we're accommodating a root ball there in the middle, we've placed risers on either side of that because you can't go on that. So we actually have 4 risers for this little
I'm
stair.
rather displeased with the wood we bought because, as you can see, we let it in the on the shop floor for a couple of days, and it left a moisture stripe here, right?
Yeah.
Which means it was way too wet, and it gave us, as Elpida said, way too many problems trying to work with it.
Yeah.
So from cutting it to making small adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, at one point it smoked our.
Yeah, smoke the saw. And then, as I mentioned earlier also, because this is so wet, as it dries, you'll have to watch the tightness of the screws because it could make the board start warping.
As I said before, we use screws for the step, but we're going to use nails to attach it to the shop because nails have much better tensile strength.
So what you're talking about is if the step moves in one direction or the other, it's less likely to break than a screw.
Right, I mean the nail prevents it from going down shear, sorry.
Right.
It has weaker tensile strength, and that's why we use screws there, because screws have higher tensile strength.
Okay.
So they will hold the step without moving, but screws do not have very high shear strength, and shear strength is a vertical force, right?
Okay.
So here we want shear strength. We don't want it to separate from the breakdown as we
Okay.
step on it, right?
Right. Oh, okay.
What?
Things flying. We keep telling you stuff flies when you do that, and
Can you put one at the top too? Okay.
excuse me. That'll be loud. Okay.
All right.
So you're gonna step on them and test them now.
I will.
Solid?
Dragon.
Solid? I didn't know you knew how to clog dance.
Well, it is nothing really fancy, but it is doing what we needed to do, correct? And will allow us to bring things easier up and down the SOP. 15 inches doesn't sound like much, but it was very hard to bring things up, especially heavy things.
Yep.
So this is going to make our life in the SOP much more enjoyable. So again, do you think our viewers might have any questions we can answer?
What was the most difficult part?
Figuring out details that they are not standard. Like, I think for me, I don't know for you guys, but the fact that the door was going below the threshold, something I didn't account for when I was designing, and forced us to redesign drastically the stairs. The steps, however, that we saw you in the beginning of the video are all accurate, right? If you use those steps, you're going to end up with good stairs. And don't listen to those people that say decide how many steps you want and then make them fit. That is not working, and it will not pass inspection if you ever want to sell the property. Any other lessons learned from our little experience? Try to buy not as wood, as wet wood.
Yeah.
Wet.
We had to buy treated wood, but try to buy it where it's more dry.
Yeah, as you saw, this is ridiculous. 2 days and left a stain on our SOP floor.
Well, it's just wet. It will dry, but
I
still,
hope so.
it will.
But I don't know if you want to take a shot at it. I mean, ours is very purpose-built, right? It's very. We wanted it long, and we only need one step. We thought we'll need two, but we only need one. Again, two would have worked great if we had the whole length from the threshold to the ground, right?
Right. So it was the extra lip on the door here.
Which made our life more complicated.
There. Okay.
All right, but it feels steady and everything. And our doors open, which was the problem we faced. The doors wouldn't open if we built it the standard way. And now it's much easier to go up and down the SOP without making old people noises. Right? All right, friends, and from beautiful North Carolina in a very, very nice summer-like day, we finished the project that we needed to do for a while now on our SOP, and we are happy with the results. What do you guys think?
It worked.
I'm happy with the track light, so I was questioning if we were able to cut this.
You mean tack life?
Yeah, what is it called? Whatever.
Tack life.
I was questioning if it was big enough for the job, and I was panicking because I couldn't remember if we've brought any of our old circular saws. But it was up to the job, even though yours truly was trying really hard to burn it, but it survived me. If you enjoyed this episode and you enjoyed our channel, we'll ask you that you support us with likes, sharing our videos, and of course, if you have not subscribed, subscriptions. If you would like to see something specific that might work for your property or for your house, let us know, and we're going to try and make it a video for you. From the Wizared, Mrs. Wizared, Elpida, and the Urban Homesteading channel, we hope you have a great week. Happy 4th of July, and we are going to see you soon. Farewell, friends.